I want to second what Deborah says. I mean, I think certainly one of the big issues, it's really a citywide issue, which is the issue of affordable housing, because it's hard to be in a creative profession when you're paying exorbitant rents, and I think it's something that the Bloomberg administration has not been very sympathetic to, you know, in terms of undertaking programs like other cities do, where, you know, a percentage of certain buildings are devoted to low income and middle income kind of folks. This has been a luxury real estate development boom. I mean, we've seen it right here in Bushwick. I also think that, you know, in terms of to Deborah's point about how, you know, we're not always going to be the art community is not always going to be the most sympathetic community in terms of getting funding. It's like, you know, this is a neighborhood that in the 1980s had an unemployment rate of 40%. And, you know, where with a lot of unskilled labor. And unfortunately, the art industry is not very good at providing lots of jobs to unskilled workers. You know, this is not a shipyard. This is not a factory. It's not a beer brewery. And so it's the kind of thing that I think, you know, we're living in a city that over the course of the 20th century has seen its well-paid blue-collar work decimated. So will we be a priority? You know, I don't know. There's a lot of need out there. I mean, also, the public schools are another thing. I mean, the dropout rates in the public schools in this area are fairly astronomical. I mean, they've gotten better in recent years, but they're still pretty high. So there's some huge issues that we're dealing with at a public level.
Thomas, you have
yeah, I think you know, one positive experience that I've had here is the Mayor's Office of Film and Television. And they actually really did help me start my stage. Very supportive staff. They sent me customers, and it was the first time, and I'm not used to actually accepting help, so it was a little awkward at first, but it was like, wow, you know, thank you very much. And so that, and I'm on their website so people can find, you know, we're QPF, so they have that tax credit, and that actually really works. It actually brings business into the city, and when I have productions here, you know, I'll have 50 to 100 crew members throwing together a television show or a commercial or something, and they all need a place to eat and do stuff, and so that actually has been a real positive experience. On the negative side, I'll go back to the Department of Buildings and such. They, you know, as a small business owner, and I have to say, I have felt, it's almost like a slap in the face. I felt no support. And in fact, I had people coming and writing crazy tickets that I would win in court, but just trying to squeeze money out of you. And I hope you know, I'm not going to get in trouble for saying this out loud, but it's terrible. And you know, every minute I've got an inspector floating around somewhere trying to write a silly ticket. It's not about safety. You know, following code is beautiful. It's great. It works. It saves lives. It's complicated, yes, but it's there for a reason. But silly sort of violations and stuff like that you know, this city needs to generate so much money to pay everybody that it's, you know, even the Department of Health and their inspections of just the cafe, every 3 months I'm inspected. I have an A, and we maintain an A, but you know, we're getting these huge fines, and how can a little business like support that? You know, $300 for a fruit fly. I mean, please give me a break. You know, it's just.
Is that a real fine?
That's a real fine. Yeah, absolutely. You know, there's certain things. I mean, you know, every once in a while, fruit flies show up, and you're like, oh, you know, and they're running around, just like, you know, trying to get this fruit fly. It's like, I mean, it's that absurd. It's that absurd. And so that's something that's been, you know, discouraging for me and my wife. And you know, it's just sort of like, oh God, what next? You know, and you know, even also the taxes. You know, as you know, I have to absorb the taxes, and every year the taxes are going up in a recession. I mean, I had tenants moving out left and right during the recession. Artists that were just not getting paid for their projects, going under completely, moving out of the city. I mean, it was a disaster, and you know, the city, they're raising taxes again. Are you kidding me? Like, really? How does that make sense? they're changing the codes. Anyway, I'll go on and on, but I'll stop there.
I wanted to be sure to include, so I'm wondering if anybody wanted to add something in terms of some of the challenges, whether specifically to the art community or not, that they wanted to bring up that we haven't dealt with. Paul, would you like to go ahead?
I can talk about it. I have a two-part question. Allegedly, the Boar's Head company is vacating in a few years, and I'm wondering if it's true that there's a shorter long-term plan to turn it into an exhibition hall for art fairs.
It's the first time I've heard
Yeah,
that. Sometimes you have to put the idea out there for something. The Boar's Head Fair?
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Bird said that history doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes, and I think that might be pretty apropos for the situation here.
Are the conversations that are happening in the Hispanic community in the neighborhood, I mean, what are some of the things you're hearing?
Well, I think like Deborah said earlier, there's various levels to the Latino neighborhood, the Latino presence in this neighborhood. There's the longtime Puerto Rican community that dates back to the 60s. There's the Mexican and Puerto Rican immigration, Mexican and Ecuadorian immigration that started really in the 90s, like hardcore, and then there's always like new arrivals. So I think, how aware are like the new arrivals who are living here undocumented about what's happening in this neighborhood? My guess is not very, and they've got other pressing concerns than to think about, what's happening to Bushwick and finding work and not getting caught by customs and border enforcement. I think, there is this sense that for a long time, until in 1960, this neighborhood was 75% white, and by 1970, that number had flipped, and it was 75% Puerto Rican. And it's been a Latino bastion for a really long time, and I think there is sometimes a little bit of a sense of loss, this has been our place, this is where we grew up, this is where we raised our kids for better or worse, this is where we bought our food at the supermarket, and now there's this weird organic shit everywhere, what's up with that, and so it's concern, and some ambivalence, some like, hey, this is good, I don't have to worry, I can let my kids play in the street and I don't have to worry about, but, concern. I don't think anybody's really rioting in the streets about it. Yet.
I feel...
Has anyone watched East Willie B?
I did.
Wait, no one here has watched East Willie B? Oh man, you guys, you live here? Jesus, it's a show exactly about this, about a Puerto Rican guy who's trying to make his bar survive in Bushwick as all the artists invade and don't go to his Puerto Rican bar.
What channel is that on?
It's on YouTube. It's
Holy.
I'm not saying it's great, but it so encapsulates what this very issue is about. And it was I was recently watching one of the episodes where it was there's a Puerto Rican guy, a Mexican guy, and a Dominican girl, and they're like, no, but we've been here longer, and you don't really know because you're Mexican, and it so got at the layers of craziness that are going on here. So I don't know, if you want to understand what's going on out there, watch that show, or at least a few episodes of it.
But I feel like, television brings together communities so that there'll be dramatic, flare-ups and funny moments and stuff.
Yeah.
But I see three communities here that have almost nothing to do with each other, which is our artistic community, the longtime Puerto Rican and Dominican community, and then the recent immigrants from Latin America. I don't think any of those groups intersect very much with each other. And the Black community, but that's mostly South Bushwick and more toward and also I think that's a group that feels somewhat in battle because they've lost political clout to the Hispanic group that's come in. So I think it's a really complicated place. My window through it is these kids on our block who have come over and hung out at our building and whom we send to camp in the summer and, give a room in our office so they can come and play computer games. We're supposed to let them, have them do their homework, but they mostly come to just goof off and, hit up my husband for money. But, I would say that I know these folks. I know their families. I know their situations. I know when one kid's mother went to jail for 2 years for crack, and he lived with his stepfather, who was paid to, have him for custody, but whom he had no real relationship with. It's a kid who just basically is raising himself. So, this community to me is specific individuals who, it's a miracle that I know them and that they know me, really. It's an accident. So that's kind of a weird thing.
Well, nurture art works at many levels. I would say that our gallery program, the thing that I take care most directly at the gallery is just, it's for the art community. It's an organization that works for the visual arts, and we create opportunities for artists and curators. So whether these artists are from from here, from the immediate proximity of the gallery, or if they're from like China, Japan, Australia, etc., it doesn't really make a difference for us. We really want to show good work, quality work, in our setting. Then we do other things though. We have events, and we have lectures, and we have an education program, and these are somehow like we're using these programs to open the doors, of our world to more and more people. So what we do is to use like our events, like our public programs, especially the education one, which allows us to interact with young people that are from schools that are around here, to basically to let them see what we do there, to let them participate, to let them curate shows, to work, to develop projects with artists that we choose, and growing up, these young members of the community will become, people who are accustomed and I have a hands-on, experience to share about what's being done in the arts world in this community. So that's very important to us. But in general, with the events and with the with the gallery programs, we have a really open door policy, and we always discuss a lot. Debbie knows this in our board meetings, etc. About what what the general tone, how should it feel to be at Nurture Art, to be at an event, not just how it looks, what it means. We try to go over the conceptual and just the intrinsic value, artistic value of projects, and also understand how is it going to be perceived? What does it mean to the people that will find this door open and will walk into this gallery from the street? Who knows who it is? And will they like it? Will they understand it? Is it accessible? These are things that are important to us. I think that's it.
Ruth, who's in the back, who actually runs Outpost, that many of you may know. It's near the Halsey stop on the L. I always wonder whether, one of the things about the Bushwick community is it really is huge. Geographically, it's a large community. And yeah, technically some people don't consider this building Bushwick, but I think most of us, psychic geography kind of included as part of that. Now, Ruth, do you feel part of the Bushwick community where you're located? I know you're technically in Ridgewood, but...
Yeah. Well, the subway stop is in Bushwick, and our space is half a block in Ridgewood. Yeah, I do feel part of it. Although, actually, in the last year and a half, because we've had more and more events, I'm meeting a lot of people that are coming in just because they pass by the place, because they live there in Ridgewood at the Halsey stop in that general area. So I don't know if this is extending out to the, I guess it's all connected,
Right.
because of the L train.
And I'm going to put someone else on the spot, Jason Andrew, who runs Norte Mar. Jason, you work with a lot of the local schools and doing arts programming for the local schools. Now, what's your experience been with that, and how that's, has there been a good response to that type of thing?
Well, I don't work with schools for my own, for other reasons. But part of the mission of Norte Mar is really to try to develop a community just beyond what an artist is. And I believe that, and the mission believes that artists, and there's possibilities in making art in all walks of life. So the kids that I really work with, Chloe Bass, who is one of the founders of Arts in Bushwick, introduced me to Bushwick Impact, which is a family service organization on Central Avenue. So I went there one day and worked with the kids, and then I thought up a great program where I would work with a local artist, a very local artist that might have a studio, and try to see if I couldn't persuade them, instead of constantly either going to work to their studio, but actually involve themselves in the immediate community themselves. So now that program is in the basement of the Bushwick Library, and last week Seth Kaplan transformed the basement into a print lab. So all the kids were making their own prints, and we started that program when we first transferred from Bushwick Impact. We lost some of the families that naturally come there because they're part of that community on Central. But now that it's on Bushwick Avenue in Siegel with the projects there, we had 40 kids. And now I have a grant, a very, very small grant that helps support this, but I don't have enough supplies to keep it, you know. So I run out. Kids come, it's really great, but you know, that's part of the program that I'm really interested in, is bringing the local artists that work in the community in to develop, you know, seeing what the community is like, you know.
I'm gonna also put Patty Johnson on the spot, because you've written about this building specifically and a little bit about the development of the local neighborhood. And what has ever since you've written that, I'm sure you've gotten a lot of reactions, you've probably thought about it a little bit more. I was just wondering what you thought this building might represent, or how the neighborhood has changed ever since you've been looking into the Bushwick area.
Up until just now, I was tweeting madly, so I don't control myself, my Twitter brain. I think that when I wrote that article, one of the interesting things that happened, like when I came, was that James Wagner and Barry Haggard were here, and they've been visiting. They've been visiting Bushwick for some time, and so I always thought of them as sort of like being early out to any kind of to anything that represented, you know, a shift. And so this building to me represented, although I had been coming out here for Pocket Utopia and English Kills, this seemed like you know, a real shift, like a watershed moment for me anyway. When I came here, there seemed to be like a lot of great art, a lot of great energy, and a lot of artists doing their own thing. And I do see that as being like more artist focused than the Williamsburg community that I experienced in the early 2000s.
Because you were part of the and still work in Williamsburg, but you live in Bushwick and you've been here for quite a while. What are some of your observations? Because you've been critical of the neighborhood and the scenes, so I'm curious.
I've mostly been critical of just the local politics of it. It's just full of wonderful personalities. But I was sort of a late comer to Williamsburg. I got out of grad school in 2001 and started looking around the community. And by 2004, it became 2005 or 6. There was this kind of like opportunistic madness where like this guy David Hunt opened a gallery and was having these giant group shows that just seemed about selling work and had nothing to do with the people like Ed Winkleman or Schroeder Romero. They've been there for a while, and Joe Arnheim had been there much longer, and so on. And I didn't move out here until 2008. And again, I still feel like an occupier in the bad way, part of the process of raising rents. My first impression of the neighborhood was there was this this huge fear of it becoming too commercialized. And I wrote something like Bushwick, don't worry. That was also during the recession. And the commercial galleries are moving in, and I think I would ask why. I'm not sure, but I don't think there's that much to be critical of. I think it's like any scene. I wonder, is this a starting gate or is it like an end point?
Who is you? What's your name?
William.
Yeah. My name is Raphael Fuchs, and I've been here since 2005, February 2005. and I'm a photographer and I've been documenting the area since the first day, even before Bushwick opened studios, when they were back. I don't know if you guys know, it was Bruce Garon and RJ, they organized back. And who's been here before 2005? Can you please raise your hands?
Like
One
living
person.
here?
Living here or even like exploring the area. 1, 2. Okay, that's cool. That's good to know that I'm not alone. I know people that have been here for 18 years, even in the same loft. What happened?
Feels a little bit like an AA meeting where everyone's
This is an intervention.
Sorry, go ahead.
Thank you. I take it as a compliment. And I could start by saying that I'm disappointed from Bushwick, but I'm not. I'm just acknowledging the process that happened here. And for me, it was a very critical day and time, about 1.5 years ago, when the Archive Cafe was sold and became Swallow Cafe, which I love, but it was just like so symbolic. 2 young kids that owned it. One of them was actually a teacher himself, and he didn't have much time to spend there, and obviously it was kind of run down. There were every once in a while, this is what the health department said, there was a mice running around. I never saw any mice. They figure out, we might as well get $25,000, which I'm not sure, just some things that I make up. Maybe it was like half of it. And 2 other people, nice people, I'm friends with them, came from Williamsburg, they owned the cafe. And this was like, boom, the archive is gone. The archive was a very symbolic name. So, and also the nature of the place changed. There are no more movies and so on and so forth. Everything is good, And then I started with, and again, excuse me if I'm going to do, but this is what happened here. This place became a dog-eat-dog town. And it's fine, because this is the progress of every urban place, or every neighborhood. There is no commodity. There are more people, like you said before, you could recognize the people. Every person, every business is taking care of their own business. And again, disappointing, but it's fine. And I felt it personally on my flesh, and I'll give you this example. I tried to come up with a book about, and I call it Bushwick Forever, which is documenting the first 7 years, because we all know that it's changing now. And I was relying on 2 main sources. One of them is about 250 people that I shot in a website separated that I call bushwickearbook.com, where I was allowing people to behave the way that they wanted to behave, as if it's a yearbook, but you could put a patch on your eye or whatever, which a teacher wouldn't let you. And I was relying on these people, but guess what? These people, the real artists, most of them, 90%, are still broke. So, what happens here in this neighborhood, most of the artists, except for very few, are still in the same situation. They either moved out or they are here, but they are broke. On the other hand, I was also relying on the new businesses that came here, the restaurants. Specifically, I was in touch with about 15 businesses that I know in person. Nobody except 3 had the time of the day to give to such a project, which actually depicts the ways that this neighborhood started. And I would understand if it doesn't matter if they like the work or not. I'm sure everybody loves it and stuff like this, but it's like nobody cared anymore to see the neighborhood I started 7 years ago. And this is exactly what you said, and you put it in the right words, that the city is built by layers. It's like new people come in that don't care about before, and I learned it, and this is what it is. This is what I'm facing now, and I think this is what everybody is facing now. It's a new town. Great parties back then, but this is what's happening now.